Hello everyone, Richard here, and today we're going to be looking at the new weapons and some of the new changes introduced into the community test environment of Insurgency Sandstorm. The first big change was the inclusion of 4 new weapons and a weapon making a return from the beta. These include the MP5A2 and A5, the M240 Bravo, the MG3, and the PF940. Both the MP5A5 and A2 are functionally identical weapons, but the more modern A5 variant does have some minor advantages, such as being able to use the extended magazine attachment in all game modes. Both weapons have, from what I can tell, identical ballistics to the Uzi, however with a bit higher recoil and a much higher rate of fire, making them extremely deadly at close range. As of right now, the A5 and A2 are only available to security forces and insurgents respectively, outside of TDM and co-op. Personally, I have found that the MP5 works well with a foregrip, a close range optic like a holographic or Cobra sight, extended magazines, and, if you can spare the points, a suppressor. I will typically forego armor and additional ammo as well, giving me an edge in mobility. The 2 new gunner weapons, the MG3 and 240 Bravo, are both very powerful and very difficult weapons to control when compared to the 249. Both GPMGs fire armor-piercing 7.62 by 51mm NATO rounds, making them very effective against enemies using armor or hiding in cover. The MG3, however, is a very tough beast to tame, firing at a blistering 1,000 rounds per minute. While this will mean that you will melt anything at the receiving end of your weapon, firing it unsupported makes the weapon nearly unusable outside of close range. The PF940 makes a return from the beta, offering a nearly identical experience to the L106A1, albeit with 2 extra rounds of ammunition per magazine, while lacking the ability to take a quick draw holster. Overall, I think this sidearm suits classes that will be traveling with their sidearm more often than not, such as the marksman or gunner, but otherwise, the lack of a quick draw holster makes it less useful as a weapon of last resort. There is also some tweaks to existing weapons, including a price hike for the MP7's extended mag to 4 points for Versus and 5 for competitive. The Uzi received a reduction in price as well, likely to make it an economy choice compared to the MP5. Battle rifles, such as the G3A3, Mark 14, EBR, and FAL, received a weight increase, likely in an attempt to limit players using them in a run-and-gun fashion, obviously outside of the intended battlefield role. Both the PKM and M249 have received a buff, reducing their recoil noticeably, and allowing the M249 to function without a bipod. However, it did also lose the ability to use armor-piercing rounds. All machine guns will also aim down sights slower, making them far less responsive than rifles and SMGs. Finally, for weapon changes, all shotguns have diminished pellet velocity, reducing their effectiveness at range, with flechette rounds receiving a penalty to spread, making them more in line with standard buckshot. Fire support options have also been altered, removing the gunship entirely from Versus and also limiting its chain gun field of fire relative to the hull. Both the Blackhawk and Apache will also be less likely to dodge incoming rockets. This will allow skilled demolitions players to quickly eliminate them. For competitive players, the update claims improved matchmaking, as well as tiebreaker rounds requiring a team to lead a match by 2 round wins. Each tiebreaker round will alternate which side each team is on. This will prevent players from winning based on faction imbalance alone. Both sides should have access to each other's optics pool for respective weapon categories, meaning insurgents can use security forces optics and vice versa. Finally, they have also included 2 new modes: Casual, which will be a rotating pool of less demanding game modes like Team Deathmatch, and the Range, which will allow you to test out weapons, loadouts, and fire support against both enemies and vehicles. Overall, I'm actually really enjoying all of the new added content, and I think for the most part, the new weapons seem to be relatively balanced around their point cost, although it is pretty hard to say right now because everyone and their mother seems to be using the MP5. There are some issues with the range right now. For me, it seems to be crashing during periods of sustained firing, but again, I'm fairly confident that NWI is well aware of this. My major concern right now is with some of the casual game modes spoiling some of the concepts that make Insurgency so addicting, namely the emphasis on deliberate gameplay and tension that every engagement brings. Despite this, I think that the update in its totality brings a lot of welcome flavor to the game. For a lot of people, the best additions will be the hyped performance improvements, which allegedly remove stuttering from the game entirely for many users. If you are curious to see the full changelog for the update, it will be in the description as well as in the pinned comment, but you can also check it out on their Steam store page or on the Insurgency subreddit. Let me know what you all think of this update and what changes you are most looking forward to, not only in this update but also long term. I will be covering the new weapons and some of the other changes in more detail, so feel free to subscribe so you never miss any guides, but until next time, happy hunting!